Hi guys, today Miranda and I are going to go over the female reproductive tract in a chicken. And today Miranda is going to talk about the left ovary because in chickens only the left ovary produces. The right ovary actually regresses and is only used if the left one is damaged.
Thank you for that intro, Elizabeth. So this is the ovary that Elizabeth was talking about, and these are follicles. And then next we have the infundibulum, which is the same in mammals. It catches the follicles, or the follicles kind of just pass through, but in mammals it catches the egg. But what's different in poultry is that sperm is already present in the infundibulum. So this is the site of fertilization in poultry, in the infundibulum, whereas in mammals the site of fertilization is in the ampullary isthmus junction. Then we go into the magnum, and the magnum is kind of like the ampulla of mammals. And so this is probably like 3 hours worth that the egg spends in the magnum, and it applies the thick albumin, or the egg white. Then we go into the isthmus, which we can already see an egg forming. And this is probably 75 minutes that the egg spends in the isthmus. And the isthmus applies the inner and outer, which the outer is 3 times thicker, shell membranes. So it applies the inner and outer shell membranes. Then we have the shell gland, or the uterus. The shell gland, or this is where the shell forms onto the egg. And the shell is mainly made up of calcium carbonate. Then we have the vagina, which is, it's kind of hidden and cut up, but it's like right here. So the vagina doesn't really play a big part in the egg formation, but it is important. And the way it's important is for laying the egg. So the vagina is made up of a muscle that helps push the egg out of a hen's body. The egg travels through the oviduct with a small end first. So when you see an egg, there's like a smaller end and then a larger end. So it's really cool. It actually travels through with the smaller end first, but then turns around in the vagina, and the large end comes out first. So near the junction of the shell gland and the vagina are sperm host glands that can store sperm for long periods of time. So this is different than in mammals. And they can store sperm typically 10 days to 2 weeks. So one of the really unique things about birds is that sperm remains viable at body temperature, whereas in mammals that is not the case. It needs to be lower than body temperature. So when a hen lays an egg, sperm can be squeezed out of these glands and goes to the oviduct and migrates to the infundibulum for fertilization. And then lastly is the cloaca, which is the opening into the bird's digestive, reproductive, and urinary tracts, whereas we know with mammals there are separate openings for each of these systems.
All right guys, so I'm going to go over a few more things about the egg cycle in chickens. So like Miranda said, sperm is stored in the infundibulum up here. And this is different than mammals because in poultry, chickens are, they don't have an estrus cycle, so they're constantly ovulating. And then the egg goes through the magnum and the isthmus, and then it ends up in the shell gland. And this is where the egg will spend much of the time of the egg cycle, which is about 18 to 20 hours. And this is where the eggshell is formed. So the eggshell is made up of a whole bunch of small calcium carbonate deposits. And between each deposit, there's what's called a pore. So an eggshell has about 8,000 pores. And these pores are really important for gas exchange. especially when you're incubating eggs. When the embryo is developing, these pores allow gas to exchange in and out of the egg. Another thing about eggs is when they're laid, they have what's called a cuticle on them. And this cuticle acts as a lubricant that helps push the egg out. And then when it gets out of the body, the cuticle dries and closes up the pores. So this keeps bacteria from entering the egg. This is why if you wash an egg, you are decreasing its freshness, because you're eliminating that cuticle that helps keep bacteria out. And a few other things about eggs. So if your birds are stressed, or if they're at the early stages of their laying cycle, or if there's a bunch of other outside environmental factors such as heat, these can decrease the eggshell quality. All right, guys, so another fun fact about eggs is when the eggs are going through the cycle, they all start out, the eggshell, all starts out as white. And then when the shell is forming, it can change colors and get pigmented. So a lot of times at the grocery store, we might see white eggs, and sometimes we'll see brown eggs. And these are all due to the breed of chicken that's laying them. So our most popular breed that lays will lay white eggs, and the chicken will have white earlobes, which means they'll lay white eggs. If they have red earlobes, they'll lay brown eggs. And you guys might have also heard of some chickens laying different colored eggs, like blue or green eggs. And this is all due to the breed and their genetics.